Well, I liked the leadership challenge. I thought it was important that the business community be aggressive on a number of issues, and at that point in Fairfax, transportation and economic development obviously were big issues. I mean, economic development has always been a big issue here, but transportation had also sort of crept onto the agenda, because you can't really talk about economic development without addressing transportation and education, because people will only come here and locate or put businesses here if they feel as if they can move their people into services in the region, and if they can get a good educated workforce. And obviously I had been engaged in the education arena, but I also felt it was important that economic development and transportation be addressed. So this, the chamber, and initially it started, Todd Stottlemyre was the chair the year before me, and we had started our effort to really advocate on behalf of transportation changes in Northern Virginia, and I picked up the mantle and went after that. Also, I thought it was important to, and as it turns out, I brought some diversity to the Fairfax Chamber, because in the 75-year history of the Chamber, I was the first African American to serve as chair of the Chamber, and I took that as when I was very honored to do that, but it gave me the duty and the responsibility, as I said, to make sure I wasn't the last one. So I wanted to work to make sure that I did the best possible job I could as chair, and we were able to address a number of issues, some of which related to, as I said, transportation. We helped lead the effort to get the Virginia General Assembly to turn to Northern Virginia, and I remember having some interaction with then Governor Gilmore, who was not one who thought that we needed to raise revenue to address transportation issues, whereas the business community felt a little different. So I remember having some interesting opportunities to work with the governor. One thing that leaps to mind, I was actually en route to the Washington Times to do an interview with their editorial board, and we were listening to Ask the Governor on TOP, and the governor was, Governor Gilmore was berating the business community for talking about increasing taxes, and he was saying specifically, well, the Fairfax Chamber and this and that. And that was before the days of cell phones, so I was, as soon as I got to the Washington Times, I picked up the paper and called TOP, and they immediately put me through. So he and I had a little discussion right there on the radio about why we thought it was important that Virginia invest in transportation in Northern Virginia to address the gridlock, and that was very interesting. And sort of a humorous note to that is the point was that the chamber at that point, I think, really raised its profile and started to be a strong advocate on behalf of transportation as well as economic development in this region, and I was pleased to be a part of that. I was also pleased when I served as chair to team with you and the Economic Development Authority to form what we refer to as the Emerging Business Forum, because one of the things that was great about this region was that we were fortunate to have within the region, not only in Fairfax County, but within the region, a number of women and minority-owned firms. When you looked at the numbers from across the country, we came across very, very well. And we felt we needed to do all we could to support that, to celebrate the fact that we had these businesses here, that Fairfax was a welcoming environment and that it was supportive of business. And so we wanted to have an opportunity to celebrate that, not only just to recognize the businesses that were here, but to encourage others to come and join us, that this was a welcoming community and that we provided the support that was necessary. So we focused on issues like how do we help form partnerships with majority firms, how do we help with access to capital, things of that nature. And I think that was one of the great achievements, or at least one that I'm most proud of when I served as chair. And I was very appreciative of the fact that the Economic Development Authority was a full partner in that. And we were able to, I think, raise the profile of our women and minority-owned firms, and that continues to be something we're very proud of today. And we had a number of people to come and speak and to participate in what we were doing. which I thought was very good. And as I said, we brought attention to something that was very important. Also, while I was chair of the chamber, I was proud of the fact that at that time we had what we referred to as fame lunches, where every month we would have a lunch. And when I knew I was in line to become chair of the chamber, I sat and tried to remember people that I had come in contact with earlier in life that might make interesting speakers at the chamber. And so when I hit the ground, when I took over as chair, I was able to announce a schedule that included, and I want to make sure I get this correct. First was Ted Leonsis, who had just purchased the Capitals. And I remember when he spoke, he was asked about, well, why did you buy the Capitals and the Wizards? And his answer was, because I could, which I thought was, I like this guy, which was interesting because I literally had just picked up the phone and called him. I didn't know who he was, and called him and got him directly and asked him. He said, sure, I'd love to do it. We also had Ken Starr, who had just stepped down as independent counsel. His first public speech after leaving that role was here at the Fairfax County Chamber, which got us a lot of attention and coverage. A fellow that I'd practiced law with when I was a baby lawyer at Covington. In fact, the first case that I worked on involved the Washington football team. And the fellow that I'd worked with was a guy named Paul Tagliabue, who subsequently had gone to New York and become commissioner of the National Football League. So I wrote him and said, hey, I'm chair of the chamber. Would you be interested in coming and speaking at one of our famed lunches? And he said, of course. And so we had him come down as a speaker, and that was the first time I had a chance to meet Dan Snyder, because Snyder called me and says, well, would it be okay if I attended this lunch since you've got the commissioner? But being a man of the community, I said, yes, I think that'd be great. But he not only attended, but he brought the coach, who at the time was Norv Turner. And we had some high school football players that we had present, so it was really quite an event. We also had Bob Johnson, who had formed Black Entertainment Television and done tremendously well, and he was a speaker. We had two cabinet officers, the Secretary of Commerce, Bill Daley, spoke, and then subsequently the Secretary of Transportation, Rodney Slater. And then Tim Reed, who was obviously an actor and had formed a production company down in Petersburg, Virginia. So overall, those were, I thought, outstanding people to come in and talk, and each one drew one crowd bigger than the other. And it really gave us a chance to spotlight the chamber and some of the things that we were fighting for. So it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.
You do. Well, yeah, I think he would.
That's right, because he did a program for us. He did a program for us. Yes, yes. And we also had Richard Dreyfuss came down, and so it was really, I thought, a great period for the chamber to kind of bring a lot of attention. And so not only did we have people that they were interested in, but it gave us a chance to talk about our message, which was obviously Fairfax is a great place to locate. It's great for business. We're very supportive. We've got a great education system, one of the top school systems in the country. We're working hard on our transportation efforts, so come on to this region. The county has been tremendously successful in growing. All you have to do is stick your head out of the window here and see the growth that's going on in the area, and we still have work to do, but it's just amazing the amount of growth and economic development we've had, and now the presence of the metro has enhanced that even more. Just looking at what's happening in Tysons as far as the development that's going on around Tysons. I live in Reston, so I've been able to see what changes have taken place in Reston as a result now of the Silver Line. And then there's the anticipation of the extension of the Silver Line and what that's going to do not only for Fairfax but for Loudoun. So I'm just very excited about what's happened here. And a lot of that credit obviously goes to the Economic Development Authority. You guys have been the #1 advocates for this region and for bringing jobs and people to this area, not only nationally but internationally. which is so very important because, as the governor is always saying, 95% of the trade that's going on is going to happen outside of our country, and so we want to get people interested in coming here. And I want to commend the authority for the work that it's done, and I'm glad that I've been able to partner with you on some efforts and be helpful and supportive in others. So we still have some work to do, but I think we can be pretty proud of what we've accomplished. What do we have to do in order to keep moving forward? It's sort of the quote that I use a lot of times when I speak. It's the Will Rogers quote, is that being on the right track is not enough. If you're not moving forward aggressively, you're still going to get run over. So we're doing a lot of things right, but we have to continue to improve. For example, in 3 areas, transportation. We have to address transportation. We've made some significant strides as far as these new express lanes, as far as what we're going to be doing with 395, some other transportation projects in the area, which have helped us make it easier for people to get around this area, and that's going to make it a much more attractive, not only county, but also region. Education-wise, we really need to continue to work to be one of the top school systems in the country, because just the nature of the population in this area shows that it's a changing population. In fact, Fairfax is rapidly becoming a majority-minority school district. And that means that there are going to be new demands, different kinds of demands, and we need to continue to provide options for our students and to enhance our educational opportunities. So we're pushing forward on that. And then we're also focused on how do we market this region, how do we brand this region so that it continues to be attractive. And one of the things that's happened over the last several years, obviously, is the whole sequestration effort, and how that has shown that we can take some shots to the extent that when the federal government cuts back, it has a direct impact on our economy. And one of the good things that has come out of that is that we have recognized that we're going to have to build up an economy separate and apart from the federal government. And I think there have been strides made in making that case and making sure that we take advantage of some of the industrial clusters we have in this region and build on those so that we have something other than the federal government. And so I think that that's going to be one of the challenges, is how do we market ourselves internationally to say that we're not just a sleepy government center here in this region, but that we're a vibrant economy that has a range of different businesses, a range of different opportunities, and that it's a great place to locate. And the successes we've had in the last few years with moving headquarters of Fortune 500 companies and others here, I think is indicative of the fact that we can do that, but we're going to have to take that up to a different level. And that's why, for example, the fact that the Economic Development Authority has located some international offices, I think, is very important, because we've got to actually go after business now. It's we're in a situation where you can't just sort of sit back and rest on your laurels and hope that people will show up. You've got to aggressively go out there because people are competing, and you've got to make the case for why you're a much better location than other parts. And to the extent we're doing that outside of the region, I think will help us. Appreciate that, and I feel as if it's the I owe it to the region. The region has given me great opportunities. As I said, we've raised a great family here. People have been very supportive, and one thing that I've tried to focus on is it's nice to enjoy all these things, but you need to create opportunities for people coming behind you. And I have, as I said, grandkids who are living in this area, and I want them to have even better opportunities than I had. And the way to do that is to focus on how do we make this a better place, and how do we create opportunity, and how do we make sure that people who need help get it. But I feel very blessed to have been a part of all this and to meet such wonderful people, you and others I've had a chance to spend time with. I mean, even in spite of the fact you're a Yankee fan, you and I have been able to work together on a number of different things.
In spite of that.
And eventually we're going to get you to come around and to realize that Bryce Harper is not going to New York, okay? But thank you very much, and thanks for asking me to participate.